And Aziz, how are you?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Baby page, sorry man.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Today we beginning with Surah 57, page 1497, Surah Hadid or Iron. I looked at the Surah and I noticed a very short Surah.
Yeah, 29 verses.
Prepared the Halqa. But looking at the Surah, I noticed it was very beautiful. The amount of lessons, very uplifting and very empowering Surah. So it's extremely beautiful in the way that it's laid out and structured. And then automatically you look at the name that is chosen for the Surah, Iron. And you notice the qualities of iron: strength, reliability, flexibility, things like that. It sort of, in a way, defines not just this particular surah, but also our religion and how we should be as Muslims. You know, strong, but at the same time flexible, and we should work with strength. And the surah gets its name from verse 25.
And only one place.
Looking at the history or the background of the surah, it said that it's actually, or most of it, or all of it has been revealed just after the conquest of Mecca. So when the Muslims gained a very great victory in the history of Islam. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, verse 1. Whatever is in the heavens and on earth, let it declare the praises of Allah and glory of Allah, for He is the exalted in might and the wise. So the surah starts off very beautifully. Allah says, whatever, everything that exists, all of creation, right? All in the heavens and all in the earth, so everything in existence, it declares the praises and the glory of Allah. And why is this so? Because of Allah's might and because of Allah's complete wisdom. And we look at it, they declare the glory and the praises of Allah. So sometimes people say, look at that tree, it's making sajda, look at that rock, it's making ruku, whatever. So I think we should look at it very literally, but just the function of it, that everything serves its precise and exact purpose as it's meant to do, and it doesn't go out of line with that, you know. It's all in accordance with the will and the law of Allah, so you can look at it in that way. Moving on to verse 2. To Him belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth. It is He who gives life and death, and He has power over all things. So you see verse 1 and 2 linking up very closely together. To Him belongs the dominion. So everything belongs to Allah. Everything in existence, everything within the heavens and the earth, everything belongs to Allah. So we see now we're getting the reason following up into verse 2 from verse 1. And then Allah says, it is He who gives life and it is He who gives death, right? And this is a quality of our Creator. You can look at the example of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam in Fir'aun, when Fir'aun said, I can also give life and death. But truly we see how limited the understanding of Fir'aun was, that Allah had to give him an easier example, you know. And you look at it, only a Creator can give life, and only a Creator can take that life away, you know, in the true essence, in the true sense of it all. And then Allah says, He affirms and He says He has power over all things. So moving on to verse 3 now. These three verses are very closely connected. He is the first and the last, the evident and the eminent, and He has full knowledge of all things. So the first and the last, Allah is eternal, Allah is everything, Allah is here before all of creation, before everything that we know today. And of course, after everything that we know today is gone, Allah will still be there. Allah is clear, Allah is here. There's no question. Allah is everywhere, and everything that we see around us, the beauty, the perfection of creation, the balance of creation, Allah is all there. And then the verse ends off, and He has full knowledge over all things. So Allah is complete and utter knowledge of everything. So things that we have discovered and things that we yet to discover, Allah has complete knowledge of it. So you look at these three verses, and just to put it into the historical context, perhaps, you know, or it can be apply to your daily life. If you think about these Muslims that sacrifice so much, and a very difficult period in Islam, and now they've won over Mecca, they've defeated the enemy, and you just read these 3 verses, the level of motivation and upliftment that just these 3 verses had and has on people is totally profound. Knowing that Allah has complete control and power and ownership of everything, and Allah has complete knowledge over everything, that just uplifts the soul and strengthens one's faith, I think. Moving on to verse 4. He it is who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, and is moreover firmly established on the throne of authority. He knows what enters within the earth and what comes forth out of it, what comes down from the heavens and what mounts up to it. And He is with you wheresoever you may be, and Allah sees well all that you do. So, verse 4, very eye-opening verse. So let's look at the 6 days. He it is who created the heavens and the earth, who created everything that we know, everything that exists within 6 days. So different ways of looking at it. Some people say 6 phases, 6 stages. I like to look at it in 6 days, the way we understand it today in our time period. And if you look at that 6 days, you know, the beauty of it, the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His total majesty and control. And I think the figure itself is not important, but rather the concept of how fast everything that we know was created. And, you know, just an example, you know, not even looking at a home or a house, whatever, looking at one mere room, if it's just a kitchen or a bedroom, sometimes it doesn't even take us 6 days. Sometimes it takes us far longer than 6 days. So looking at it in that perspective, and looking at the earth, looking at one's country, looking at a piece of land, and think, wow, 6 days. Looking at the molecular structure, you know, now that we're able to study certain things like plants and animals and how all of that is made up, and in 6 days, or in 6 stages. We'll get a quick cross-reference, Surah 32, verse 4, page 1092. Page 1092. Verse 4. It is Allah who created the heavens and the earth and all between them in 6 days. And He is firmly established on His throne of authority. You have none besides Him to protect you or intercede for you. Will you not then receive admonition? And then the next verse, it's important to note that Allah says that you know, one of the days that Allah speaks could be 1,000 of our days. You know, it's also important to note the time, the way we see time, the way we perceive time. But we could look at it in 6 days, and the way I look at it is, if Allah created or set into motion, you look at a seed. The seed is created and the seed is programmed to become a tree. And that tree will only start bearing fruit maybe in 10 years or so, some less, some more, whatever it may be. But maybe Allah set into motion the creation, and it evolved and developed and grew. So it perhaps was put into motion in 6 days, and as we know it today, it took a longer time and it evolved. Important to note, there's so many verses like where Allah mentions the 6 days, but immediately after that, we see that Allah says, and is moreover firmly established on the throne of authority. This is so important for us to know that in our daily lives, whether it was in the past or whether it is today or in the future, our leaders need to be firmly established on the throne. And if they don't have a firm establishment on the throne, you find that corruption seeps in, people get away with certain things, there are other people that have sway and power and so on. So many societies and people in the world and communities in the world don't have this firm authority that Allah has, you know. There's always loopholes and there's always gaps, but Allah has complete authority over everything. So it's such an important lesson for us to learn. And the verse continues on the next page where Allah says He knows what is beneath the earth. We're looking at all the natural resources and things like that, where maybe 60, maybe 80 years ago, we look at the Middle East, they didn't know that there was so much of oil and wealth beneath there, but Allah says He knew what was beneath the soil and the gold and the coal and so on. You could even look at things like various fossils. You look at ancient fossils. So there's so much beneath the earth. Allah says He knows what is there. Why? You look at the previous verses, Allah says that He is the creator and all belongs to Him. So He put it there. And then Allah knows what comes down from the heavens. So you look at mere things like rain and where it comes, which areas it comes to, and today we're able to track that, comets and meteors and so on. So Allah's vastness of His power. But looking at the end of the verse, and He is with you wheresoever you may be. So Allah knows everything and has complete power and complete control. But no matter what, no matter where, Allah is always with you. So it's so empowering. Despite if you look at the various victories that Muslims had and our shortcomings, or the things that we may have seen as our shortcomings, we must always realize the mindset that Allah is always with us, and we have that strength and support and power if we are doing it in Allah's cause. To Him belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth, and all affairs are referred back to Allah. So verse 5 again, you look at the previous verses, verse 1, 2 and 3, linking up very closely, especially to verse 2. To Him belongs the dominion. Everything belongs to Allah and nothing belongs to us. And I thought that's something we need to think about. Today's life, we're so obsessed with ownership. If we don't have land, if we don't own this, if we don't have that, we're always striving to own certain possessions. But we forget that it all belongs to Allah. To Him belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth. So it's important to build and work and live one's lifestyle according to this lesson, that we don't need belongings, we don't need material wealth, because at the end of the day it's all Allah's. And when you own things, when you have things, we should have and own these things, knowing that it does not belong to us, but rather it belongs to Allah. Right? Verse 6, He merges night into day, and He merges day into night, and He has full knowledge of the secrets of all hearts. So you look at the verse, Allah speaks about the night and the day, in the dawn and the dusk periods. And there's so much we can talk about here, but I just said, if you look at it in a different way, throughout time, man has seen these periods in the day as great inspiration, a lot of poetry, a lot of art around the night turning into day and the day turning into night. So much of paintings and beautiful poetry written, and great inspiration has come just from these, if you want to call it a total miracle. It is a miracle. And Allah's power extends over the external, over the things that we can merely see, but His power extends into our deepest thoughts and feelings, things that no person can take or control from you, things that we guard, our most deepest secrets. Allah says He knows what is in your hearts, And sometimes people have become such professionals in hiding the emotions and the feelings. No matter where you go, some people may look strong when they're really not. Some people may look happy when they actually really sad. So Allah says He knows what is in your heart. And there's such a deep connection that Allah has with us. It's something for us to realize and also become more aware and strengthen our belief and our taqwa in Allah. Verse 7, believe in Allah and His apostle, and spend in charity out of the substance whereof He has made you heirs. For those of you who believe and spend in charity, for them is a great reward. So again, just saying the mindset, the mentality that Muslims should have, and the things that we should do in order to gain Allah's pleasure. And then this verse follows up with the previous verses, looking at the greatness and majesty of Allah. And of course, we don't need anything more to know how we should act as believers. Verse 8, what cause have you why you should not believe in Allah? And the apostle invites you to believe in your Lord, and has indeed taken your covenant if you are men of faith. So Allah is saying in the first part of the verse, Allah is saying that there is every single reason why you should believe in Allah. Allah's signs and Allah's beauty and Allah's majesty is all around you. You know, everything that you see should be a reason to believe in Allah. Right? All His miracles in His creation, the perfect balance, the color, it's all synced in harmony. So what reason do you have not to believe in Allah? There's every reason to believe in Allah. And then He's given us a further mercy, which He sent the revelation and He sent the prophets unto us to guide us even further. Verse 9, He is the one who sends to His servants manifest signs, that He may lead you from the depths of the darkness into the light. And verily Allah is to you most kind, most merciful. So following this, the idea from verse 8, what? There is no reason not to believe in Allah. There's every reason to believe in Allah. And then Allah further extends His mercy and Allah gives you manifest signs. There's so many clear signs everywhere around you. And then Allah gives you the revelation, which is completely clear, which is actually spoon feeding us to believe and to follow Allah and to work in Allah's path. And this beauty really leads you out of this darkness, of this wrong, of this evil, what is leading you onto the wrong path, and brings you into the light. And Allah says this is a true mercy. This is Allah extending His hand of mercy to us as human beings. So it's something we need to realize and truly appreciate it. And what cause have you why you should not spend in the cause of Allah? For to Allah belongs the heritage of the heavens and the earth. Not equal among you are those who spend freely and fought before the victory, or those who did so later. Those are higher in rank than those who spend freely and fought afterwards. But to all has Allah promised a goodly reward, and Allah is well acquainted with all that you do. So, looking at the context of the verse again, or the surah, going back to the conquest of Mecca, and looking at all the battles and all the courses in Allah's path, and Allah is telling us that those that spend and fight before victory is granted or before victory is guaranteed cannot be equal to those that come in afterwards, after victory is now gained or after victory is in sight. They cannot be equal. Those that spend and those that fight and struggle before victory, before the guarantee of victory, they wholeheartedly commit to Allah, they are on a far higher rank, you know. And a lot of, you just look at how human beings work. If there's an investment or if there's a business or whatever, everybody's very hesitant to get involved in it. And people who do get involved, and if it's extremely successful and they start seeing the numbers and the stats and whatever, everybody else wants to join in. And you look at Allah's cause, Allah says that He has power over all things. This is guaranteed. But if you're unable to see it, you should still fully, wholeheartedly get involved in it. But of course, even if you come in later, there is still a reward for those that do. Verse 11. Who is he that will loan to Allah a beautiful loan? For Allah will increase it manifold to His credit, and He will have besides a liberal reward. So let's look at a quick cross-reference. Surah 6 verse 160, page 338. Let's just go there quickly, page 338. Verse 160. He that does good shall have 10 times as much to his credit. He that does evil shall only be recompensed according to his evil. No wrong shall be done unto any of them. So looking at this, Allah speaks about this beautiful loan. Sacrifice this life and the pleasures of this life and everything that you gain in this life in Allah's cause. And if you do this, Allah will increase. And in the cross-reference we looked, Surah 6 verse 160, Allah says He will increase it 10 times. So all the good and sacrifice that you do, you will get 10 times as much. And all the bad that you do, you'll only get for the bad that you did ultimately. So it's so beautiful to look at this beautiful loan and this sacrifice that Allah is asking us to make now, which is actually very small, and it'll mount up in the after. Verse 12, one day shall thou see the believing men and the believing women, how their light runs forward before them, and by their right hand their greeting will be. Good news for you this day, gardens beneath which rivers flow to dwell therein for aye. This is indeed the highest achievement. So you look again, verse 11 and 12, how it flows so beautifully. You've made the sacrifice, you've taken this loan, and you were totally and utterly rewarded. And Allah says, good news to you. So this is some news that all of us would want ultimately, and it is something that we should really take up on as believers and work hard on as believers, right? Verse 13, one day will hypocrites, men and women, say to the believers, wait for us. Let us borrow a light from your light. It will be said, turn you back to your rear, then seek a light where you can. So a wall will be put up betwixt them, with a gate therein, and within it will be mercy throughout, and without it, all alongside will be wrath and punishment. So Allah speaks about the light here, the light referring to one's good deeds, one's good actions that you did, which will lead the way, lead you to the straight path, to the straight way. And the hypocrites, they will look at us, they will look at the believers, they will look at those that did good, and they will say, borrow us some of that light that you have. And Allah is showing us here that the good deeds that you do, the good actions that you do cannot be stolen or taken away, cannot be borrowed and shared. What good you do is your own good. And that's so important. And a wall, a barrier will be put up, and you will be clearly divided. So these hypocrites who once stole and once took from everyone, they actually did to their own downfall. And now they realize the truth, and they cannot take anymore, right? And then towards the end of the verse, we see that these hypocrites, these wrongdoers, were actually punished because the mercy, it was always in reach, and the punishment came due to their rejection of Allah's mercy. Verse 14, those without will call out, were we not with you? The others will reply, true, but you led yourselves into temptation. You looked forward to our ruin. You doubted Allah's promise, and your false desires deceived you until they issued the command of Allah, and the deceiver deceived you in respect of Allah. So it's so beautiful here. They look and they say, were we not with you? And we would say, of course you were, but this is what you did. You went overboard. You indulged in your temptation. You did not see the truth. You did not see the promise of Allah, and you turned away. You became astray. And it's so beautiful to see that these hypocrites, these wrongdoers, they thought they were the deceivers. They thought they had the upper hand. But ultimately, they were deceived by their own evil, by their own wrong doings. Okay, we can move on to verse 17. Know you all that Allah gives life to the earth after its death. Already have we shown the signs plainly to you, that you may learn wisdom. So here we see Allah's mercy again, truly emphasized, and linking up, to the verses that we did. And you just look at the earth and how we're so dependent on rain. We may not see it in today's life, but the world still works in the very same way that it used to. We need the rain, and we need the earth to light up the green to come in so that we may survive, and then you realize Allah's true mercy there, Allah's mercy is everywhere, all around us. Verse 18, for those who give in charity, men and women, and loan to Allah, beautiful loan, it shall be increased manifold to their credit, and they shall have besides a liberal reward. So it's so important here that we need to develop this mindset, and everybody's looking at investing in today's world. It's so important to invest there. They say invest when you're young, invest in this, invest in your future, invest in your retirement, whatever it may be. But we forget to invest in the year after. And this is the ultimate and the key goal here, that we need to work towards investing to the year after. And this is something that needs to be emphasized across the board. Okay, looking at section 3, verse 20. Know you all that the life of this world is but play and amusement, pomp and mutual boasting, and multiplying in rivalry among yourselves, riches and children. We can look at a quick cross-reference to this verse again, Surah 6, verse 32, page 297. Let's go to page 297. Surah 6, verse 32. What is this life of this world? The play and amusement. The best is the home, the year after. For those who are righteous, will you not then understand? So Allah is saying this world is merely temporary. People are running around in circles and chasing this world, silly things, not seeing the truth and getting distracted by pride and boasting and accumulating and whatever the case may be, and looking away from the year after and getting distracted by everything in the world, And a beautiful example, that flows afterwards in this verse, that compares the life of this world to a harvest, basically. For those of you that have been around farmlands or farm areas, you go and you'll see just before the harvest time, it's so beautiful. It's completely green, and it's just so lush and so positive and full of life. And just mere few months later, you come through and the land is it's barren. There's nothing left there. It's torn. It's dusty. It looks like a totally different place. So Allah compares, and Allah says that this is the life of this world. It is so short, like your harvest, that it's green and luscious just for that period, and afterwards it's nothing. It's something for us to think about, And these very practical examples, how we function and how we work as human beings. We still live around the harvest. So it's important we look and also physically try and experience all of these things. Verse 22. You look at verse 22. No misfortune can happen on earth or in your souls, but is recorded in a decree before we bring into existence. That is truly easy for Allah. So you look at the misfortune which Allah speaks about here, and when Allah says no misfortune on earth or in your soul, so you look at the spiritual misfortune, moving away from the path and the values of Islam, and everything, is within Allah's plan, within Allah's law, within Allah's record, and everything is according to Allah's plan, and all our actions have consequences according to Allah's plan. So it's so important for us to realize this and look at it. And as Muslims, it's easy to be, or as human beings, it's easy to be externally motivated. But we need to work hard to motivate ourselves internally, which I think we can look at it as a spiritual form of motivation, if we're internally motivated. Okay, let's look at verse 25. We send aforetime our apostles with clear signs, and sent down with them the book and the balances of right and wrong, that men may stand forth in justice. And we sent down iron, in which is a material for mighty war, as well as many benefits for mankind, that Allah may test who it is that will help. Who it is that will help, unseen, him and his apostles, for Allah is full of strength, exalted in might, and able to enforce his will. So such an important verse, and just to remind everyone again that this is where the surah gets its name from. So Allah says He sent the apostles, and Allah sent the clear signs, all the miracles, and then Allah sent the book. And just important to note, especially when we look at histories and we look at a message that has been passed down, and you look at messengers and we look at the miracles and things like that, you can look at that as being the verbal proof, oral tradition. And everyone says, and the historian says, that oral tradition is questionable. There's its doubts. Over time it can be changed and so on. But Allah's wisdom extends so greatly that He has given us the primary source, the written source, the unchangeable, the untouchable source, which is the Quran. He's given us the hard copy and the hard proof that will last throughout time. So I just thought that's something so important for us to look at whenever Allah says He sent the apostles and then He sent the book and so on. So it's just something for us to think of how beautiful Allah plans and sees everything. And then we look at iron in its self, extremely one of our most important, one of our most valuable metals that we have. And Allah says that we use it for mighty warfare. But it's something we must remember, that this comes from Allah. This is a mercy that Allah has given us. And you look at these extreme battleships or machines of warfare, and they say World War I was the first modern war, and you look at the amount of metal that was used in that war, and there's so much of metal, the amount of metal used was to create massive cities. When you're surrounded by these machines of war, you feel invincible, you feel nobody can touch you, you feel so powerful. But in this verse, Allah is saying that we must remember that this metal comes from Allah, and Allah is the one who provided it for you, and your mindset is automatically changed. It really brings you down to earth. The verse is also emphasizing that as Muslims, as much as we need to spiritually connect with Allah, we need to advance technologically, and technologically, scientifically, intellectually, we can connect with Allah in that way as well. Right? Looking at section 4, and we sent Nuh and Ibrahim, and established in their line prophethood and revelation, and some of them were on right guidance, but many of them became rebellious transgressors. And then verse 27 carries on a very similar tone. And you look at Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, you look at the whole line of those prophets, and Allah is saying that within that line of following, they've been given these books, there's miracles, they've been given right guidance, but still we find that there was corruption. We still find those that went astray, and for their own benefit or whatever it may have been, power, control, or whatever it may have been, but they still went against. And there's something I was thinking of something. People, let's say, they trace their line back to the Prophet, and this verse is just telling us, I think, that even if you're related in whichever way to whichever prophet or to whichever person, it doesn't define who you are as an individual, because Allah is saying that in their lines, or their followers, or their bloodline went astray. And it's so nice to look at those that really link themselves to the Sunnah so strongly. There's great wisdom in it. But you also look at the great enemy of Islam. You look at Abu Lahab, and he was the family of the Prophet ﷺ. And he also perhaps wore very similar fashion and clothing to the Prophet ﷺ. So it's something we just need to open up our minds and look into that deeper. Right? Verse 28. O you that believe, fear Allah, and believe in His apostle, and He will bestow on you a double portion of His mercy. He will provide for you a light by which you shall walk straight in your path, and He will forgive you your past, for Allah is oft forgiving, most merciful. I think this is the key verse. For me, this was a highlighted verse in the surah. So it's extremely beautiful and links up to the cross-reference that we did, where Allah will 10 times, He'll give you 10 times your good that you did, and loan to Allah, beautiful loan. And you just look at it, and Allah says that all you have to do is fear Allah. Have great taqwa. And people say it is a challenge, this life is a test. But Allah has given us such immense mercy that everything around you is a reminder of Allah. And everything around you should strengthen your faith in Allah and in Allah's path. And it's so important as Muslims, the type of mindset that we should develop, and a simple change in the way that you think will really change your perception and outlook on life, and things become much easier. So all you have to do is have this taqwa, develop this taqwa, believe in the prophets, believe in the message that they have sent down, believe in the primary source that they have left behind. People may have changed, people may have manipulated the verbal sources, but the primary source is here. And all you have to do, you just have to do this, and Allah will give you a double portion of His mercy. So it's so beautiful just to think of. And those Muslims that came out of extreme hardship, and those that struggle and strive in Allah's path afterwards, you look at this, it's such an inspirational verse, where Allah says He will double His portion of mercy upon you. And you think, this is truly amazing. He put you on that right path, and He forgive your past. So if you're truly willing to change, or if you came to Islam as a new Muslim, or whatever it may be, Allah says He will forgive your past if you just fulfill these actions. It's truly uplifting. For Allah is oft forgiving, most merciful. Something we always must remember over and over again. No matter how society treats you, you must remember ultimately you seek Allah's pleasure and Allah's cause. Then we end off with verse 29. That the people of the book may know that they have no power whatever over the grace of Allah, that His grace is entirely in His hand to bestow it on whomsoever He wills, for Allah is the Lord of grace abounding. This is such a key verse that we really need to emphasize greatly within our society. And we look at all religions across the board have this very same problem. Christians, Jews, Muslims, we all have this problem. Where we feel that we're the chosen people, the chosen race, or we speak the chosen language, or we come from the chosen area, whatever it may be, and we forget that Allah sent prophets to all parts of the world, But Allah says that it is His grace to give, and only Allah can give this grace, and only Allah can give this mercy. So if you went to a priest, or you went to a Maulana, or wherever you went to, and they say, you know what, you've gained the grace of Allah, or you have not gained the grace of Allah, whatever it may be, you don't have Allah's mercy with you, or Allah's forgiveness, only Allah can determine and judge and decide. And this is something that all Muslims and all people need to remember, because Allah says that it is His grace and His mercy to give. So only Allah can give this mercy, and only Allah has power to give His mercy and His forgiveness, and whatever it may be. And man does not have such power. So no matter how society judges you and sees you, we should remember that our goal is to Allah and not to others. Okay. Jazakallah.